Thanks, sir. Hey guys, how you doing? Cool. So I'm not Jody Warren. Jody unfortunately had a flooding in her house, so everything's flooded, so they decided to have designated here come in, so I'm here. Happy for you guys to join. So today, the fragmented marketing ecosystem. To start off with, here's a few questions I want you to have in your head. These are the things I want you to think about while I'm talking today. I'm not going to read through them, that's kind of boring if I do. These are some of the things I want you to be thinking about. A lot of it is empowerment of data. A lot of it is about empowerment of the analytics that you own, or the things that you can control, and the things you can quickly take action on. So have these in the back of your head. So let's start it off. Anybody seen this slide? Anybody? Raise their hand. Can you see this? Yes. This is kind of scary. So I was at Scott Brinker's keynote back at MarTech in March, and I saw this and thinking, in 2011, 150 companies. And now 3,500, and I was talking to Scott the other day, and we found out it's almost 4,000 now. That's a lot of tools. That's a huge marketing stack. At IBM, we did a recent study, and we found out that on average, companies use around 35 different marketing tools to be able to manage their daily activities. 35 different marketing tools. Just imagine that. On a daily basis, typically marketers have, 3 to 5 screens in their office. How many people have more than one screen in their office that they look at, right? Because how many dashboards do you have to look at? Imagine if you're looking at all 35 of those tools. You're going to be like a stock trader's room. So the idea here is, there's this rise of the marketing stack. So I built out this cool little graph. I drew it myself, so hopefully I get some credit for it, right? Over time, the amount of data increases, but the thing is, as you start to increase your marketing stack over time, you're also increasing the amount of unused data. How much data do you actually use within the dashboards that you give? Or how often do you take the designated or default dashboard that you get and just use the KPIs that they give you? How many people actually dig in? How many people actually go back to the vendor and say, I want something customized? How many people, raise your hand if you ask your vendor to customize dashboards for you. Very rare. Go talk to those people that raise your hand. You raised your hand, right? You guys, you raised your hand. Go talk to them and ask them how they did it and why they did it, because this is the most important thing for you to do. Don't settle for the KPIs and the data that the vendor wants you to see. They don't know your business. They sell to probably 1,000 other people that do 1,000 different things. It's not specific to your needs. So with this, as you add on marketing tools to your stack, you're basically increasing the amount of unused data. So let me ask a quick question. How many people here think they use 50% of the total data that they get within their company to make decisions on multi-million-dollar budgets? How many people here, 50% of the data? Okay, good. I can't see up there, it's bright. 30%? Okay, let's drop it down. 15? Yeah, cool. Yeah, shocked you, right? 10%. 5? Okay, how about 1? How about unknown? Right? How much data do you actually get within a given day to be able to make decisions? And how much data are you using, and how much unused data do you have to make those decisions? It kind of scares you a bit. You're given the opportunity to spend millions of dollars from what your company has to do advertising, to do marketing, to do all these different things, but yet you're not using the potential of the full amount of data that you have to be able to make those decisions, right? So with this, the idea is, as you build out your marketing stack, there's a point of diminishing return, because you get to this point to where you basically spent your entire morning trying to figure out what's happening. And what do I hate the most when I was a marketing practitioner is the 9 a.m. fire drill on Monday morning when you walk in and you find out that your conversion rates are down, your revenue's down, and you need to go and figure out what's going on. You get brought into that room, and in that room there's what? Finance, IT, marketing, e-commerce, the analytics or business intelligence team, and everybody's sitting there trying to figure out what's going on. And then what do you have to do? You have to cut your entire week and focus on this thing. And then you have to go back and you have to look at all the different tools and start digging into data, and you just wasted your entire week. So what we want to do is get into this idea that there's this nice intersection of having tools that actually integrate. So the whole premise of my conversation today with you guys is this idea that don't focus on the tools, on having so many tools that do all these magical things. Focus on the tools that actually integrate and talk to each other. And you're thinking, that sounds like a simple concept, but it's what's going to help save your sanity. It's going to be the thing that helps you get through the day. So imagine when you were back in, let's say, Q3, the end of Q3 into Q4, you were building out your marketing plan for 2016. You spent all this time and effort talking about the things that you wanted to fix from 2015 that didn't work, and the new things you wanted to try, and the most time that you spent on that 2016 slide that you wanted to send to leadership and to management was the new and innovative things. How many people here spent the most amount of time on the exciting, new, and innovative things that they wanted to do? That's the thing that you wanted to focus on. You're like, man, I want to do all these things. I have all these great ideas. I want to be able to do this. But when it comes down to it, you're dealing with 52 weeks in a year, you're probably dealing with 30 to 40 fire drills a year. Something is always breaking. Something is always going wrong. And because you have so much unused data, you're sitting there making quick decisions on things that don't really matter, but you're spending your entire week solving for something that you can't really fix. And all that is because your data never gets integrated. Your tools don't talk to each other, so you're making a decision on one, and then look at the other, and look at the other. So we did this recent study. And in this recent study, we asked about what brands think. And with that, we found out that 69% of companies say that they offer a fabulous, superior online experience. But then we asked those customers, 51% of those customers who left the company said that the company failed them. Bad customer experience. But on the other hand, when you look at it, 81% of those brands say they have a holistic view of what the company is about. In the last presentation, a fantastic presentation with the Bonobo stuff, he talked about how they sold him the things that he wanted. But then 37% of consumers say they don't really understand me. So there's a huge disconnect here. It's all about customer experience, and you can't have that fabulous customer experience if you don't have integrated data, if your tools aren't talking to each other. Because what you're basically doing is jumping from this tool to this tool to this tool to this tool to try to figure out what your customer is doing on each channel. And as we all know, it's a multi-channel, very complicated journey that every customer takes to make a purchase from you. And so the thing is, this is not the ideal situation. It doesn't happen like this. It happens like this. It's this weird old squiggly line of them being able to get to the purchase, right? So, if you think about it, when I talked about those 35 different tools, if you have 3 KPIs, 35 different tools, you're essentially looking at 105 different KPIs to be able to make a decision on a simple thing. That Monday morning fire drill, conversion rates down in the new campaign, something's happening, trending's not going well, your ROI is just dying slowly. And you have to go back in your office with your team, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, this is just a subset of it, but I have to look at 105 different KPIs to be able to figure out what's happening. This is not possible for a single person. This is not even possible for 2 people. It just doesn't work, because then once you figure out all these KPIs, you have to integrate them together. You have to intersect them to see what is really going on. And when I was doing that, when I was running demand gen teams, I had big old screens in my office. It was almost like watching a movie. Everybody used to always come to my office because I had all the screens. And I used to be able to download all the data, put them up on an Excel, and we were looking to see where they intersected. How many people do that, right? Where are the trends? Where is it dropping? This is not scalable. You can't do this in the long run, because this is what ends up happening. You're sitting there staring at a screen, and you're trying to figure out what's going on, because this lack of marketing data integration equals a very bad customer experience, because you have no idea what people are doing across the different channels. So, I like this one. Basically, it's this idea that you need to really stay focused on your priorities. You really need to figure out what really matters to you most. I like this one. So, quick story. I used to work for this financial services company, and they brought me in as a consultant because they had this fabulous track record of losing money for 5 years straight. And the thing is, they knew they were going to lose money, so every year in their future forecast, they're like, well, we're going to probably lose another $1 million, another few $1 million every year, so they forecasted that loss. So they brought me in to try to figure out what was wrong, and I'll just tell you in the end, after 5 years of losing money, I was able to break even and make an extra $400,000, which was nice. I got a big bonus from it, but the exciting thing is, we changed things around, and here's the observations from my time there. So I walked in, and I noticed a few things. I noticed they didn't have the right tools and the technology to offer a modern-day customer experience, right? Then I noticed they had outdated tools that didn't do more than just see the high-level KPIs, meaning they weren't even looking for the core problem. These were people who individually owned marketing channels or marketing tools, and their job was to focus on their little KPIs, not talk to this person who owned search, not talk to this person who owned affiliate, not talk to this person who owned print, and so on. Everybody had their own subset of KPIs that they wanted to go after. Nobody talked to each other. We also found out they didn't hire the right personnel. They didn't try to, focus on people who knew the digital world. I mean, this is a company that really loved the idea that, well, we've always done it this way, so we're not going to change anything, right? They had a mentality of inaction. They had this fear of innovation. Basically, they were kept in the dark ages. It was kind of depressing and sad going into the office every day. And lastly, they were looking for that silver bullet. How many times are you sitting there in a boardroom or in a meeting and somebody in management is trying to have you figure out what the silver bullet thing is? That one thing you could do to change the direction of the company. It does not exist. There's no such thing as a silver bullet marketing activity that's going to turn everything around. Does anybody here have a silver bullet idea? Because I'd love to steal it from you and write a book about it. Anybody have one? No? Okay. So, this was my visualization of that office room. They're all sitting around thinking, what if we don't change anything, something magical happens? This is how I felt every single day. And luckily, after my consulting or my work was gone, I left and moved to IBM. But this is how I felt every single day. So it's funny. I wanted to do something different, so I individually got different. It's almost like the Two Bobs, right? Everybody knows this movie? So I almost felt like I was the Two Bobs, and I brought in each person who was in charge of something different, and I sat behind a desk, and I started asking them all these questions, because I didn't want the quieter person in the room to be overshadowed or to be, forced into saying something that somebody else who was louder voice, had them say something and force them to say something they didn't want to say. So I started asking all these questions. I said, does your data accurately tell you the performance of your marketing programs on a daily and weekly basis? When we talk about accuracy, what do I mean by accuracy? Well, they were like, well, I have this one report and it says I have X amount of revenue, and then every time we go into a meeting, this person has another report too, but our revenues never match. Well, that's a problem. How much is it off by? $400,000. Well, I was like, wow, and this is something you've accepted? Well, it's one of those things to where if I make the stink about it and I go to management, then they're going to start digging into it more, and then I won't be able to do my job. Fantastic, right? Some of those different things. Here's another one. Can you tell me the marketing channels that your customers most frequently interact with, and what is their experiences with each? I could not get a solid answer for this. Different people, depending on how long they're at the company, told me different things. If they were there at the company for 20 years, everybody assumed that they still got those red plum advertisements in the newspaper. Everybody knows those, right? Those things when you shake the newspaper, all that stuff falls out, right? In the advertisement. They were still saying everything came from there, and I said, okay, can you prove it to me with data? No, we can't do that. Other people said, well, they came in from search. Okay. Well, other people said, well, we don't really know what's going on, so we use an attribution model, and that really tells us what to do. Okay, cool. Tell me about your attribution model. Is it first click? Is it last click? Is it 70-30? What is it? Well, I don't really know. The business intelligence team, they do the attribution model, and they just kind of tell me what it says. Okay, well, do you have any inputs on what the business intelligence team does and how they calculate attribution? No, not really. I mean, that's what their job is. So they do that, and they just kind of tell me what to do, and I'm cool with that because I do my job. How many people have heard this? Isn't this frustrating? You're sitting there just kind of like poking yourself, and they're thinking, how do you get through the day? How are you satisfied with your job not having this empowerment of your data, right? Then I said, this is the big one. Do you trust the data that you're given, and why? And how many people said that they trusted the data? Not a single person. I talked to 15 people, and not a single person said that they trusted the data that they have. They didn't trust the conversion rates. They didn't trust the revenue was there. And so it's one of those things, nobody really knew what was going on. So it's funny, you know, I almost felt like the other person on the other side was this guy, right? That I have people skills, I'm good at dealing with people, right? So, trivia question for the room. Does anybody, without looking at Google, does anybody know what this character's name is in Office Space? Some people are thinking, looking up at the sky, talking to friends. I'll give you a clue. I'll buy you a beer, or 3, if you get it. His first name is Tom. He's the jump to conclusions Mac guy. Remember that? Got hit by the car and Tom Smokowski. Now everybody has to go watch the movie because it's a fantastic movie, right? So I knew that something happened. And back to, you know, the IBM point of view, what we look at is we understand that, you know, people's businesses have changed. But do you really understand how your business has changed over the years? And all these people in this example that I talked about, talking with the 2 Bobs, none of those people knew how their business had changed over the years. And they slowly just started losing revenue year after year, and nobody did anything, right? They didn't really understand that digital transformation was at the center of every single strategy. Digital transformation. A lot of times I had to explain what digital transformation was. That digital drives a new demand on customer intelligence. It was all about digital. They were stuck on print. They were sitting there, you know, spending of a $10 million budget, $4 million a year on print with an average 0.43% return on investment. That does not work. Even if you're trying to hit a minimum 1.2 to 1.5 ROI, and you got your biggest channel at $4 million, 40% of your spend getting 0.43, you're not going to hit your goal. You used to build it and hope they came, right? Now you have to reach them even when they're not looking. We talked about, you know, in the last presentation, Michael talked about this idea that, you know, you get inundated with about 7,000 ads a day. 7,000 ads today. In one day. How are you grabbing people's attention if there's 7,000 things that are popping up in front of their face? How are you going to grab their attention? It's difficult, right? You have to become omni-channel, right? You have to be able to market in every single channel, but it needs to be personalized within each of those channels. But in order to do that, you have to integrate those tools. The tools have to talk to each other. They have to pass data from one tool to the next, so you know that something's actually working with each other, because then you have your average 35 tools. And then you just change your tactics, but did you really change anything? Oh yeah, you go and tell your boss, this week in my performance report, I did this, but did it make an effect? Did it do anything? Did it have a value? Are you actually doing things that create a value? When you make a change, are you measuring that value? Right? So, here's another visualization that really understands the frustration they went to, is this idea that when you look at it, at the end of the day, you make these changes, but one person says, no, that's 4, and the other person says, no, that's 3. People aren't talking to each other. There's no sense of communication. There's no sense of empowerment of that data. There's no integration of the tools. So the thing is, it's just, how do I put it? It's a cluster. It's a total mess up, and this is where things just go downhill. Revenue goes down, everything goes down, people don't want to work there anymore, and so on. So, everybody knows this, right? This idea that content is king. Well, I was in a presentation recently and somebody was telling me, yeah, content is king. And I said, who do you work for? And he says, I work for a video marketing company. Well, obviously you think content is king. I have this idea, data is king. Data is king. And he said, well, no, I mean, a video is not data. I said, yeah, it's data, right? Everything is data. So the whole premise of what I'm trying to say here, it's all about empowerment. Empowerment of the data that you have. Empower yourself to be smarter than the other person in the office, right? Control the things that you have. Find tools that actually talk to each other. Why build out a marketing stack of tools that are just going to add more problems? It's going to take longer to be able to figure out what's going on. It's frustrating, right? The last thing you want to do is just make your life harder. So, here's something really cool. It's kind of a cool eye chart. But think about it like this. There's a lot of companies that are still down here in this kind of, this focus on just pure data, right? Then as you move up, you get in the information stage, right? You're really focusing on the things that matter, like, oh yeah, our company does alerts. We do a few drill downs and we actually have on-demand reports. We're really getting up there in the analytics world. We're really starting to build out our knowledge base because we have great information. Then there's those companies who are a little bit more advanced, and these are the guys that say, we have knowledge. We're in that knowledge stage. We have the ability to forecast. We have the ability to have statistical analysis and data mining. But at the end of the day, it's not good enough. You need to take a little bit of a step further. And based on the things that I even told you today, you need these things at the top. You need to be in that level of intelligence, that stage of intelligence with your data to be able to say, do you have predictive modeling? Do you have tools that allow you to have predictive modeling? Do you have tools that actually integrate with each other across these marketing channels? Because you can't do this unless you actually have tools that talk to each other. How many people here, when you go and seek out a new vendor, when you seek out an RFP for a new set of tools for the things you want to accomplish, how many people here focus on a tool that actually talks to the other tools that you have, right? That should be your number one priority. Stop adding tools that are just going to be siloed and independent, that you're going to have to hire a single person to go out and do all these things to try to figure out what it's doing. It does nothing to your bottom line. Because at the end of the day, 6 months later, you're going to end up getting rid of that tool because that tool is never integrated in the other things that you're doing. It's often a silo trying to figure out what to solve for. So at the end of the day, this is what you want to strive for, all these things in this top area. The multi-channel data integration, but this idea of now layering over customer experience. And at that point in your career, you've taken your company and you've made innovations within that company that have created an evolution. This is what you want to strive for. Evolve your company into this new way of thinking, right? Strive to have integrated marketing tools that starts to incorporate customer experience. It's not a crazy concept, but this is where everybody should be. This should be your focus. So, 8 key things that we learned today. So, number 1, with all this, the building success takes patience and time, but it takes an entire team. So when you go back to the office, yes, empower yourself to be the one that owns that data. Empower yourself to be the one that controls what's happening. But you know what? You need to build, you have a support team around you. You have to have people around you to help you make that happen. And it's not going to be overnight. Build expectations with your management. Go back to your management and say, you know what, we need to make some changes here. We need to look at our marketing stack. We need to look at the KPIs that really matter. But the thing is, it's not going to take 2 months. Set expectations, because the last thing you want to do is go inside, sell them on these new cool tools that you want to do, that you want to use, and then have them come around and say, hey, it's almost the end of Q3. Where are the changes? It's not going to happen. It could take months. Next one. Consistently run an audit of your marketing tools, data and analytics, and marketing agility. Never settle for less. Never, ever settle for anybody telling you we've always done it this way. That is the absolute way to kill your career. Don't ever settle for we've always done it this way. Constantly run an audit of the things that you're doing. Don't settle for what you've done. One of my biggest pet peeves is when somebody tells me, oh, that's just a best practice. Okay, for best practice for who? Best practice for what season? Did you say this when it was Black Friday? Or did you build that best practice when you were working in financial services? Well, I'm in customer analytics now. Has nothing to do with this. What industry were you talking to? Who is your target market? What geography? So it's one of those things. Run an audit of the things you're doing because things change. Your business changes over time. Digital transformation has caused everything to change. Don't settle for what you have. This is a big empowerment speech, right? So constantly run an audit. I cannot say this enough, and I'm not saying spend 6 months on doing this, but maybe simply ask the question, can we do it a little bit better? Can we strive to have that level of innovation, evolve the company into something bigger? Can we actually have tools that talk to each other? And I've said this maybe 20 times today. It's a simple concept. This tool needs to talk to this tool, which talks to this tool. So at the end of the day, you're not looking at 105 different KPIs. You're maybe looking at 3 to 5 KPIs that really matter because that tool has fed data into this. It's calculated the output and given you a new set of KPIs, a truncated set of KPIs. Third one, continually track your customer's journey and shift your marketing mix to focus on the customer experience. This is another one of those, don't settle for what you always have. Continually track and change things because of your customer journey, right? Depending on the season, depending on the way people consume your data, depending on the geography, always change. Your customer experience is the most important thing you need to have, right? Try to simplify the messaging across your channels and create a streamlined funnel experience. You hate to have somebody go to Facebook. Listen, it's almost like that same thing. Try to have the same banner on your email as you do on your landing page. It's the same concept. Try to streamline that messaging because at the end of the day, when you ask somebody about this product, they're going to turn around and spout off 3 or 4 different things. If you have 20 different messages coming across, it's going to be a little bit confusing, and that comes back to this idea that you need to integrate your tools. You need to be able to integrate the things that you're doing. Not a difficult concept. This is my favorite one. Think of this idea of the 2 Einsteins, the left brain and the right brain. Being able to use your left brain and your right brain together, it's not just about the KPIs, but also about the customer experience. It's that logic versus the creativity. Are you doing that within your company? Are you taking the data and analytics that are most important to you, that drive the ROI of your business, that helps build that bottom line, but are you also incorporating customer experience? Are you taking the values of what your customers want to drive success? Are you incorporating those together? I'm not talking about meeting with the UI team every week. That has nothing to do with it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm in marketing, and I have a meeting every single week with the UI team, and they kind of tell me what's going on. That's not what I'm talking about. Do you have the integrated tools that tell you what the customer experience is on that site? What you should be asking yourself is, with the tools that I have, can I solve for the what, the who, the why, and the how, right? Do my tools tell me what happened? Do they tell me who it happened to, why it happened, and what can I do to fix it today, right? Those are the 4 things that come out of left brain and right brain thinking. Those are the 4 things that come out of every single question that you have. Every single fire drill that you have comes out of those 4 things, right? What happened? Who did it happen to? Why did it happen? And how can I fix that today? This is an empowerment slide too. Take control of the data. The center, I used kind of a corny graphic here, but whatever, right? It's everything should center around you. Go back to the office. If you don't have control of the data, go to the person that maybe might have an influence and say, I would like to know where the source of all our data and analytics are. I'd like to build tools and reports and KPIs that focus on me and my team, because at the end of the day, it's your job. It's not their job. Take empowerment, take control of the things that are happening. If you don't understand it, ask management for tools that allow you to better understand what's going on. Because the last thing you want to do at the end of the day is say, yeah, I lost my job, but I lost my job because I didn't have the right tools. Well, whose fault was that? Right? This one, you need to identify the metrics and success, not just the high-level ones, but the ones that really matter to you. Don't just settle for looking at 105 different KPIs because that's really what it's all about. Focus on the things that really matter to you and your business. This is my absolute most favorite slide. And my challenge to the audience, can anybody here in the audience do this phrase right here in a Yoda voice, please? Anybody? No? There you go. That is awesome. That is awesome. It's been 6 months that I've given this presentation, shown the slide, and not a single person has done that. What's your name?
Maureen.
You're fantastic. So, this is me. I don't have a beard here, but this is still me. Thank you for coming today. I'm not Jody Warren, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this presentation. Like I said, it's all about empowerment. Don't settle for what you have at your company. Strive for more. Go out and kick some ass. Thanks.